Blake Lively is facing intense scrutiny, and this time it isn't coming from anonymous tabloids. Actress Felisha Cooper, who once worked closely with the Lively family, has come forward with allegations about Blake's behavior behind the scenes, and her claims are sending shockwaves through Hollywood. For years, Blake's public image has been meticulously polished. America's sweetheart, red carpet royalty, and an A-list wife with a carefully curated online persona. But Cooper alleges there is a very different version of Blake away from the cameras. According to her account, this wasn't a brief encounter or a passing interaction. Cooper says she was discovered by Blake's mother, Elaine Lively, while working at a cheesecake factory, later trained by Blake's sisters, and supported by the family as her career was launched. Elaine Lively reportedly became her first manager, helped secure representation, and opened industry doors. Yet Cooper claims Blake treated her with persistent coldness, ignoring her, dismissing her, and behaving in ways Cooper describes as entitled and mean-spirited. She insists this was not jealousy or rivalry, noting that she was still waiting tables while Blake was starring in major films. Cooper further alleges that she is not alone in seeing this side of Blake, claiming that others in the industry whisper about similar experiences but are afraid to speak publicly. According to Cooper, the nickname Fake Lively circulates quietly on sets, a label she says reflects the contrast between Blake's bubbly public persona and what some allege happens when the cameras stop rolling. And as these claims resurface, attention inevitably turns to Ryan Reynolds, raising new questions about how much of this private behavior may now be colliding with very public consequences. Felisha Cooper didn't hold back. In recounting her experiences, she described Blake Lively's behavior in scathing terms, alleging moments that left a lasting emotional impact. One incident, she claims, was so upsetting that it pushed her to destroy Disney memorabilia she cherished from childhood, an act she says symbolized how deeply the interaction affected her. Cooper even referenced one of Reynolds' own movie lines, "Don't mess with the people who handle your food," pointing out what she views as a cruel irony in how service workers were allegedly treated. According to Cooper, this wasn't about a single rude moment, but a pattern, an emotional disconnect, and a hierarchy-driven mindset where people in service roles were treated as invisible or disposable. For Cooper, who came from humble beginnings and worked her way up through sheer hustle, that alleged arrogance cut deeply. She insists she isn't speaking out for clout. With more than 15 years in the industry, credits including Swedish Dicks, The Bold and the Beautiful, Lifetime films, and ongoing work creating fantasy soap opera dramas for mobile platforms, she says she doesn't need controversy to stay relevant. What she says she's tired of is watching toxic behavior excused simply because someone is rich, blonde, famous, and trending. What adds another layer of complexity, Cooper says, is the history of the Lively family itself. She has spoken about how Blake's mother, Elaine Lively, changed her name as a way to escape an abusive marriage and start over, a story of survival and reinvention that became part of the family's legacy. Blake's stepfather took that name too. To Cooper, that history makes the alleged behavior even harder to reconcile. How does someone born from a story of resilience, she asks, end up treating others as disposable? That question sits at the center of her claims, and it's one the industry appears to be quietly listening to. Then there's what Cooper refers to as the Cheesecake Factory moment, which she says cracked the Blake Lively fairy tale wide open. According to her, this wasn't just another night in 2012, it was the moment the mask slipped. Cooper describes herself doing what countless Hollywood hopefuls do, waiting tables by day, chasing auditions by night, when Blake Lively walked in, fresh off her Gossip Girl fame and firmly in the public spotlight. Cooper says she approached politely, respectfully, even warmly, acknowledging the star in a public space. What she claims she received in return was an icy dismissal, no smile, no recognition, just a look that made her feel invisible. She insists it didn't feel accidental or mood-driven, but deliberate, especially painful given that Elaine Lively had once helped launch her career. If anyone, Cooper says, deserved basic courtesy, it was her. Yet she alleges she was treated as though she didn't matter at all. And, according to Cooper, that wasn't the end of it. Around the same time, she says, she was preparing for a major audition, one of those pivotal, career-defining moments. Robin Lively, Blake's sister and one of Cooper's acting mentors, was helping coach her. But Cooper recalls Robin being visibly stressed, overwhelmed, and distracted. When asked why, Cooper claims the answer was simple: Blake. Whether due to personal tension or behind-the-scenes pressure, Cooper alleges Blake's presence and behavior were creating strain even within her own family's professional relationships. According to Felisha Cooper, Blake Lively's attitude and behind-the-scenes behavior weighed heavily on those around her, especially Robin Lively. Felisha claims the tension was so constant that it bled directly into moments that mattered, including a major audition she was preparing for at the time. Instead of focusing on the role, the energy in the room was consumed by Blake-related drama. Anyone who has ever had a big opportunity derailed by someone else's chaos knows how devastating that can feel. Felisha says she walked away from that experience not just hurt, but clear-eyed. That was the moment, she claims, she realized who Blake really was. Not the glamorous fashion icon or the doting Hollywood mom splashed across magazine covers, but someone who allegedly acted like a full-blown diva when she believed no one was watching. Not someone who simply ignored kindness, but someone who punished it. That realization led to the nickname Felisha dropped almost casually, Fake Lively, and once you hear it, it sticks. Felisha says the name reflects what she views as a carefully curated public persona: sweet, funny, humble, the effortless cool girl who bakes pies, wears vintage Chanel, and never seems pressed. But behind the scenes, she claims, the vibe was entirely different: cold, arrogant, calculated. The most dangerous part, in Felisha's view, is that people buy the act. According to her, she's not alone in seeing this contrast. She says industry insiders whisper about similar experiences, but Hollywood is not a place that rewards speaking out against a powerful star. Careers can end quietly, doors can close without explanation, so most people stay silent. Felisha didn't. She says she's not built for fake energy. She's from Carolina, not Hollywood, and she calls things how she sees them. And for Felisha, this story goes deeper than rudeness. She raises a question that lingers long after it's asked. If someone treats a fellow actress this way in public, how do they treat people behind closed doors? It's not gossip. It's about patterns, about what becomes normalized when no one challenges you, when you're surrounded by yes people, when power and fame make you feel untouchable. Felisha insists her claims aren't rooted in jealousy or bareness. She says she was someone who saw the real Blake up close and finally decided to stop protecting an image that didn't match the behavior. When her stories are laid side by side, they don't look like isolated moments. They look like puzzle pieces forming a picture far removed from a Vogue cover and much closer to a red flag. And just when you think the spotlight ends there, Felisha turns it directly towards Ryan Reynolds, because according to Felisha, Blake isn't the only one whose public charm masks something darker. Felisha doesn't describe Reynolds as witty or lovable. She doesn't see him as the good guy he plays on screen. In her words, a phrase she has openly used, she calls him a complete trash bag, not metaphorically, not jokingly. She paints him as the male counterpart to Blake, polished in public, celebrated by fans, but allegedly cruel, dismissive, and damaging behind the scenes. And that's where this story takes an even sharper turn, because if Felisha's claims are to be believed, the Deadpool meltdown wasn't just about Marvel, money, or ego. It may have been about two perfectly crafted Hollywood images finally cracking at the same time. According to Felisha Cooper, the version of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively that exists behind closed doors is far removed from their polished public personas. She describes Reynolds as unbearable in private, untoxic, condescending, and deeply entitled, and says together the couple gives off what she calls a narcissistic retreat vibe. You know the type. Two toxic people find each other, validate each other's worst instincts, and suddenly become smug beyond belief. In her words, they're two peas in a designer, self-absorbed pod, and she insists she's not alone in that assessment. According to her, industry insiders have been whispering for years, trading nicknames that don't come from anywhere. Fake Lively, Cap Cool Reynolds. The jokes may sound flippant, but Felisha argues the consistency matters. People don't earn reputations like that unless a lot of others feel the same way, and are just too afraid to say it publicly.
Then the tone shifts, because right when it feels like celebrity roasting, Felisha drops something far more serious. She claims Blake Lively is panicking, not over a fashion misstep or a fleeting PR hiccup, but over something personal and far more threatening, the sudden cracking of a carefully built image. According to sources Felisha references, Blake has been in full damage control mode since these stories began circulating, rattled by the public's growing willingness to question the glossy version of her they've been sold for years. Until now, Blake's brand has been airtight, the sweet, well-spoken fashion icon, the relatable mother of four, the effortless, charming wife of Hollywood's favorite internet personality. That's the Blake fans see online, perfectly styled, casually witty, always in control. Felisha, however, claims she shattered that illusion by offering specifics rather than vague accusations. She has spoken openly about being publicly dismissed and humiliated while working at the Cheesecake Factory, an experience she says stayed with her because of who Blake was and because of who
Felisha's allegations didn't just question Blake Lively's kindness, they challenged the foundation of her brand. And that's why, if Felisha is to be believed, the reaction hasn't been calm or dismissive, but urgent and panicked. Because when a star's carefully curated image starts to crack, the industry doesn't ask whether the claims are comfortable, it asks whether they're believable. And suddenly, far more people are listening than before. Behind the scenes, sources say Blake's camp has been scrambling, sending overly polite, let's all get along messages, and trying to smooth things over quietly. Because Felisha didn't come with vague shade or anonymous whispers. She came with history, with proximity, with receipts. And fans are eating it up because this isn't just some random person chasing clout. This is someone discovered by Blake's own mother, managed by her, trained by Blake's sisters, someone who was inside the orbit long before the gloss, and still walked away feeling small, dismissed, and disrespected by the very person now sold as Hollywood's sweetheart. Insiders claim Blake is furious and deeply embarrassed, not because the story is outrageous, but because it punctures the illusion. It chips away at the Pinterest-perfect persona she's spent years curating, the effortless cool girl, the kind celebrity, the relatable mom, the woman who just bakes pies and minds her business. Felisha's timing couldn't be worse for that narrative. We're in an era where fans aren't impressed by polish anymore. They're asking uncomfortable questions. Who are these people when the cameras are off? Who are they when no one is clapping? And a detailed, first-hand call-out from someone who knew the family hits harder than any anonymous blind item ever could. That's why, according to Felisha, Blake looks shaken, because people aren't just scrolling past this. They're listening, and being labeled fake lively by someone who watched the act up close isn't something you can meme away or bury under a cute Instagram caption. That kind of nickname sticks, it lingers, it changes how people see you. What makes it sting even more is the personal layer. Felisha says when Blake allegedly treated her like dirt, like an annoying waitress instead of a human being, it wasn't just rude, it was personal. This wasn't a stranger Blake didn't know. This was someone her family helped lift up, someone whose career her mother actively supported. Blake knew exactly who Felisha was, and that's the part that hits different. It forces a harder question. How do you grow up watching resilience, struggle, and reinvention firsthand, and still end up acting so entitled when the power finally tilts your way? Felisha doesn't pretend to have all the answers. She just knows what she saw, what she felt, and what she refuses to normalize. She's clear about one thing. She's not anti-Hollywood. She loves the glam, she loves the red carpet, who doesn't love a little sparkle and a velvet rope moment? But she's also blunt about how the industry really works. It's full of yes people, people who will hype you up, laugh at your bad jokes, worship your outfits, and excuse your worst behavior because your name sells tickets. And that's how monsters grow, when no one tells you no, when everyone applauds mediocrity and calls it genius, when power goes unchecked long enough that you start believing you're untouchable, until one day you walk into a cheesecake factory, look someone in the eye, and decide they're invisible because they're holding a tray instead of a trophy. That's what Felisha says she's calling out. Not just Blake, not just Ryan, but the system that protects them. The machine that keeps handing out covers, roles, and praise while silencing the people who dare to tell the truth. And that's why this moment feels different. Because Felisha isn't just exposing alleged behavior, she's exposing the culture that rewards it. She's reminding us that authenticity still exists. She's not Hollywood fake, she's Carolina real. And in a town built on filters, that might be the rarest thing of all. Now, let's talk about a tale of two very different Hollywood women, because Felisha Cooper didn't just give us one story, she gave us a comparison, and the contrast couldn't be louder if it tried. On one side, you have Zendaya, the gold standard of grace, kindness, and actual human decency. Felisha shared a story so wholesome it feels like a palate cleanser for the soul. One night, Zendaya walked into the restaurant where Felisha was working with her family. No spectacle, no entourage energy, no diva theatrics. Just calm, normal, good vibes. Felisha's coworkers were too nervous to approach her, so naturally they nudged Felisha forward like, "You're the actress, go say something." And she did. She walked over, introduced herself respectfully, and Zendaya, she didn't just smile politely, she stood up, met her eye to eye, and said, "It's so nice to meet you." Then she went a step further. She greeted Felisha's entire team, took a moment with each of them. No cameras, no PR play, just genuine warmth. When Zendaya walked away, grown adults were tearing up. That's the kind of humility people don't forget. That's not a performance, that's character. And then, whiplash, because on the other side of the coin, Felisha shared an experience with Elizabeth Banks, and according to Felisha, it was a completely different energy. This happened right after Felisha quit her job at the Cheesecake Factory, that terrifying, hopeful moment when you finally bet on yourself and chase the dream, that moment. She was at a Beverly Hills party helping a friend bartend, doing her best to be kind, helpful, and professional. Elizabeth Banks walked in. Felisha, still riding a mix of nerves and optimism, offered her a glass of champagne, just a smile and a gesture. And according to Felisha, Banks looked her up and down, said a cold no, and turned away. No thank you, no acknowledgement, just ice, the kind of energy that drains a room. Later, Felisha tried again, this time offering to help take a photo in front of a Christmas tree. A small kindness, a normal human interaction, and again, according to Felisha, she was brushed off. And that moment hit hard, because when you've just quit your job, when you're already vulnerable and scared, that kind of dismissal can crush you. But here's the thing. Felisha didn't spiral. She didn't lash out. She didn't become bitter. She took the hit and stayed classy, because that's who she is. And that's what makes Felisha's voice matter. She proves you can speak truth and still be tender. You can be sharp without being cruel. You can call out fake behavior without losing your humanity. She's not tearing people down for sport. She's pulling the curtain back on a system that rewards polish over character. So if you're exhausted by carefully curated Hollywood personas, if you're tired of the red carpet act while the backstage behavior stays hidden, maybe it's time we start amplifying the truth tellers. And if Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are out here collecting nicknames like Fake Lively and Cap Pool Reynolds, maybe the real issue isn't the callouts, it's the behavior that inspired them.